Welcome everybody, this is How to English, teach and learn with Gav and Em.
It's a podcast about teaching and learning English as a foreign language.
All opinions stated are personal and references will be given when necessary.
Hello Gav.
Hello Em.
Hello everyone.
Welcome followers, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to you wherever you are.
But not really good night, Gav, because that's what you say at the end. Like goodbye and good night.
You're quite right, and it has a different preposition too.
What does?
In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, but...
At night. Yeah, it's just a different category. It's a thing unto itself. Yes, mini lesson there, everyone. We're back, and it's letter L.
It's episode 12 of Gav and Em's How to English TEFL Podcast, and we're ready with the 12th letter of the alphabet.
You're going to say willing and able.
To talk about words and phrases that begin with L for our followers who are fans of the TEFL world, either learners or teachers, Em.
That's right, Gav. And as I mentioned before, I struggled a bit with J and K.
The letters J and K and words that associate with that?
That's right. But L, however, absolutely no problem. There's a plethora of L words connected to TEFL.
It's a walk in the park, Em. I was at a loss of which words to not use in the L episode.
It was hard to choose, actually. So even if you start with language...
We're all starting with language, Em.
We've got language proficiency, we've got language acquisition, we've got language awareness, language function, language skills, language level, and language attrition, Gav. Which one of those would you like to start with?
What's the last one mean?
Language attrition is basically use it or lose it.
Oh, it starts to fade away if you don't use it regularly.
That's right.
Like many things in life.
That is it. So what do you do in that case? Do you just keep trying to get your students to remember these words that they might never need?
I do try to repeat words and phrases that have come up in previous lessons, but I leave it a little bit to nature as to whether they will or not.
Okay, just the laws of, what is it, Darwin? Just survival of the fittest. The words that are fit will survive, and those that are not will just fade away.
The ones that you need the most are going to come up pretty often in your lessons, Em.
That's right, but I think it's really important as a teacher to think about your students before you teach the vocab. If you think your students might not need...
Hold on a second. You teach the vocab before what?
I said you might need to think about the vocab before you teach it.
Before you teach it?
If you're looking at the page of the book and there's a whole section about...
Canaries.
I've never found that section in a book, Gav, but there may be something about, let's say, making an omelette. And if you've got a student who's...
Out of canaries?
I'm not connecting the two things, but if you've got a student who has categorically stated that they are not interested in cooking, that may not be retained, that language. It may be useful. It may be good in a situation where they talk to people about the fact they don't like cooking.
Are we talking about pre-teaching or the activity is learning?
I'm literally just talking about, look at the book, decide if your students need that vocab or if you're going to not teach it. Maybe you can skip it because maybe that student isn't very interested in that topic.
But why are they learning the vocab? Is it just, here's some vocab, do you want to learn it? Do you not want to learn it? Let's move on.
But that's my point. You have to look at every word you teach your students as a diamond that they're going to keep fresh and treasure and polish, because if they don't, it will just decay. If you're trying to avoid that happening, I say teach them good words in the first place.
Only good words?
Useful words. Words that you more or less know are everyday words or that you think they're going to use.
Words that they're interested in learning.
Obviously, there are words that nobody's interested in learning, but they are really important. Perhaps like, I don't know, how to talk about housework or something.
I love talking about housework. What do you mean?
I know. It's only an example, but, you know, just because you don't like the word doesn't mean you shouldn't have the word in your vocabulary.
Are there any words that you don't like in English?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Do you not get my point? I feel like you're just...
I'm completely lost.
Difficult.
L for lost.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll just talk about that now. Should we just talk about being lost?
I think I understood, and possibly the followers understood even better than I did, that you shouldn't try to teach words that your students don't need, because it's a waste of their time.
And everybody's time. And if you know they don't need it, then don't focus on those words, because there are hundreds of other words that are more important.
How can I be sure they don't need it, Em, until I started trying to teach them?
That's the hard thing, isn't it? So as we always say, our mantra on this podcast, do a good needs analysis, find out what they're interested in, and then maybe just take each lesson as it comes and say, well, does this seem like something you might need in the future? Does this vocabulary seem to be in your life, something you see as missing? If they're really looking at you blankly, like, why would I need to talk about this? Then I think it's quite hard to actually convince them they need it, firstly. Secondly, hard to make them remember it. Thirdly, even if they do remember it, they're not going to use it very often, and then it will... What is the verb? To attrite? Attrition is the noun.
Atrophy.
Yeah, that's also a noun, though. What's the verb?
Atrophies?
Atrophies?
Em, there are only answers on Gav and Em's How to English pod.
Google it then, Gav.
Atrophy, the verb is atrophies, atrophying, and atrophied.
But I was talking about attrition.
I've just had a look at attrition. Noun, the action or process of gradually wearing down through sustained attack or pressure, or possibly wearing away by friction, and possibly still sorrow for sin failing short of contrition, which only has an adjective.
Well, attrition is a noun.
Which only has, other than the noun attrition, an adjective.
Oh. So actually, can we scrap attrition and just call it language atrophy? Because I actually think atrophy is better than attrition, because nobody's attacking these vocabulary words, are they?
Or wearing away by friction.
Where's the friction? I don't see any friction.
Perhaps there's a lack of friction, and that's the problem. That's why it's not sticking.
Well, that's not the right word then. So maybe atrophy is just a process of not using it and it becoming limp and weak and useless. Nobody wants that.
Gradually declining in effectiveness or vigour, Em.
That's better, isn't it, Gav? Regardless, I think we've definitely squeezed every drop of juice out of this topic. Can we just move on now?
I thought it was about the letter L.
It is.
How is it connected?
Language atrophy.
Ah, yes. All right. We don't want atrophying students.
No, Gav. I think we have laboured, L for laboured the point here now.
Shall I go to my first L word, Em?
Please do.
I'd like to begin with the limitations of language learning apps and AI, Em.
The limitations?
Yes, the limitations of using these everyday apps that we encourage our students to use, all platforms where they can learn, revise, practice, produce some language from the use of an app.
That is interesting, because I would always think the word limitless is the word, not limited.
If you're going to pay for the full subscription, it probably is limitless, but I've only ever tried the free versions and they were very limited, Em.
Well, in what way?
You might find that the language is simplistic or possibly bizarre when it comes to using apps. I won't mention any specific names, but have you noticed anything yourself from using a language app?
Well, I think there are some, like you say, perhaps boring sentences, like the cat is on the wall, which maybe not an everyday sentence.
I wouldn't need to say that every day, no.
But then there's also sentences like, my grandmother knits interesting socks.
Again, that's probably not a phrase I need to use every day in the target language.
So you're saying that they're not... Well, I think there's a lot of research into the psychology of these apps to tell you...
Emma, you didn't finish a single sentence then. Do you want to try again?
I was just thinking, because I know that the reason these apps have these sentences is because they're more memorable when they're weird. But I think actually, when you say bizarre, things like, my grandmother knits cat socks, or socks for cats, it's actually more memorable than the other two sentences we mentioned, which is why they make it so weird. Like, my spiders like bananas.
They're allowing us to interchange some of the nouns and the verbs in the sentences therefore being able to produce a useful sentence.
I guess. I don't know the science behind it, but that's what I've heard. That may seem, on the first sort of try of it...
On the surface?
That's the phrase. That may seem on the surface a bit of a useless task. It may be demotivating for some students, because I remember using some of these apps thinking, well, this isn't relevant. I'm never going to use this. Coming back to my atrophy idea, I recognised it. These are not good for me.
Did you uninstall the app?
No.
But you carried on nonetheless?
Yeah.
Can I give you a few other examples, like your grandmother knitting socks for cats?
That's right. Just off the top of my head, but yeah, go ahead.
Check this one out and you can tell me what it means.
Slíbil, že mu zeď zaplatí někdo jiný.
Is that Czech?
It is Czech, well identified, Em, and it translates as, he promised someone else would pay for his wall.
Oh, there we go. Another wall sentence.
Is that a useful sentence?
It really depends, but yeah, it is good because he promised someone else he would pay for his put in whatever word there that you want to put in. It's actually really useful.
Is it as useful as this sentence?
De relatie tussen de schildpad en de olifant was heel bijzonder.
Was that Swedish?
Dutch.
Dutch, I have no idea. It sounded a bit like English at the end, but what was it?
The relationship between the turtle and the elephant was very special.
Yeah, again, it's okay. I think they're just trying to make it interesting, aren't they?
I think it's just a bit too weird, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Let me play you this one. See if you can identify the language.
Mein Hund ist arbeitslos und hat nur ein Auge.
I think that's German. I think I recognise the word Hund, which is dog.
My dog is unemployed and only has one eye. Em, what are you laughing at?
Well, I don't see any connection as to why we need to know the dog's only got one eye. Is it relevant? No. But anyway, yeah, it's not a good sentence for an everyday topic. I wouldn't say that if I was waiting for a bus at the bus stop.
I'm not sure you can start a conversation in any queue with that sentence. And my final one.
저는 그걸 욕실에서 먹어요.
Oh, I guess it's Japanese?
Korean.
Korean, oops.
I eat that in the bathroom.
Well, that may be useful.
Can you interchange some of those words to make it an everyday sentence for us, Em?
I take that in the office. I clean that in the bucket. I don't. What are you looking for?
I don't know.
I don't feel like
very specific. Maybe in Korea that would be very, very useful, but I can't see any use for that particular sentence. Thank you to Bored Panda. I'm assuming they're real. Maybe they're all completely fake, but I have seen some pretty weird expressions in a very well-known language app.
And I'm starting to think now, Gav, that it may just be a really good marketing ploy because everybody's talking about it. And that is one way to get attention.
As long as they're talking about it in another language, Em, us language teachers are very, very happy.
That's true too. Moving on, Gav. We've also got another big L word, which is lesson, of course. Lesson begins with L. We've got lesson plans, lesson structure, lesson notes. Is there anything lesson related that you'd be interested in discussing with me today?
From the lesson suggestions you just made?
Yeah.
What are lesson notes, Em?
I might be wrong, but maybe it's informal planning, or alternatively, it's what you write at the end of your lesson in a kind of feedback to yourself summary kind of. It could be to your students as well, but maybe as a teacher it's a good idea just to write down a few things to remember about that lesson or that class. Do you ever do that? Do you ever write yourself notes?
I do. I also add a little note to next week's calendar prompt so that before I start the lesson it will remind me of the topics that I'd like to teach next time, because obviously after a week of not seeing the students I can't remember anything that we did the previous lesson.
That's very good. What do you mean lesson prompt?
The reminder in my calendar.
Aha. So before the lesson comes up it gives you a 15-minute warning usually.
Or a 60-minute if you said it.
Or however long you want before the lesson to get reminded. So when does that note come to you? When do you know about it? In that reminder? Am I missing it?
So on my calendar, it's got this lesson at this time with these students, and I put a little reminder before that, so I get a notification about 30, 45 minutes beforehand.
Right.
So I can plan a specific activity that I wanted to do the previous lesson, but I ran out of time. Or I thought, let's revise something, so I made a note to remind me to do that.
That's good, but I guess if you've got back-to-back lessons or only a 10-minute break between lessons, it could be tricky, but obviously you would factor that in so that your day's lessons are in your mind at whatever time you need that reminder.
That's it. Otherwise, make a note and write it down so that you can remind yourself later, because as I say, it's really hard to remember the next week when you're beginning the lesson what you wanted to cover last time or what you planned to do.
Absolutely. I've got the old school version of what you're saying. I've just got my timetable written down on a piece of paper, covered in post-it notes. So every lesson I replace the post-it note to remind myself, do prepositions, or that student asked for vocabulary about astronomy, whatever it is, just to make myself remember. And also things like wedding next month or birthday party last weekend, just things like that. Literally just a couple of words.
Are these things that the students mentioned in the lesson?
Yes, I should have explained that. That's why I've written them down, so I remember to ask about it. So it's notes for the lessons, but also notes for the small talk as well. I think it's really good.
It is very good, because if the student says, I'm on holiday next week, and then you see them 2 weeks later and you don't say, how was your holiday, they might be a bit disappointed.
That's right. And if you say, well, how was it in Portugal? It's even better, because then they think, wow, the teachers remembered where I was going.
Especially if they did actually go to Portugal.
Don't mix them up. But yeah, I do all that. So lesson notes are definitely a good thing to get into the habit of.
And the students should also consider this?
Yeah, take notes, people. It's good. You remember stuff. It's your turn, Gav.
I've got the topic of learners' autonomy.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
I think it links very well with what I just asked you, which was, should the students also be making notes?
Yes, that's my answer.
I've got some headings for the students to consider, and I'd like it if you fill them up, just fluff them up a little bit for me, and a bit of filling to make this cushion of memory and note-taking and moving forward a bit more comfortable for our butts.
Are you happy with that line?
Em, I would like you to just make the filling of this cushion of learning English a little bit more fluffy with some details, a bit of straw, maybe some wool, and just whatever's going to fill the topic of heading 1, setting personal goals.
That all sounded lovely, Gav. I have no idea what I actually have to do. The title is Setting Goals and I need to fill the cushion.
Just give us some details. How can we bolster this
You
definition?
don't need another metaphor. Just how do we set goals?
Students set goals. They need to set personal goals, Em. How can they do that? Do they need to consider time? Do they need to consider how many pages in their vocabulary book they should fill?
That's good. I think, yeah, think about your target as a learner. Do you want to up your level? Do you want to go from A1 to A2?
Is it measurable?
Yeah.
How is it measurable, Em? How will they decide they've gone from A1 to A2?
They get a level test.
Nice. Move on to the next book in the
or
course.
Or take an exam.
Exactly. So it's a very clear goal.
Yes, Gav, you're right. Not only set the goal, but think about how you get to the goal.
Make it measurable.
What can you do to prove you've done it? And then it's easier, isn't it, to then think about your stages or your steps towards that goal.
I absolutely agree. Are there any other goals our students should be focused on? 200 words a day.
Unrealistic.
Make your goals realistic. So, how many words should the student learn every day?
2?
2 words a day?
Oh, I'd be happy with 14 new words a week.
I think 14 words a day.
You're very demanding. Let's say realistic goals. So you got to think about yourself. It's not enough just to say a number, Gav. This is what you shouldn't do because everybody's different. I couldn't remember 14 new words in one day. So I would actually say to myself, how many do I think I can do? Maybe 5, and if that's too many, come down, and if it's not enough, go up.
I think set a higher limit, and if you can't achieve that, then maybe you could just knock it down a notch.
I would say set a lower limit, and if that's easy, go up a bit, because otherwise you're starting on a negative. I can't do it, I have to make it easier.
I will find a way of learning 14 words a day. Em, I've got another heading for you on the learner's autonomy note list. Self-correcting and reflection.
Reflection is easy, but correcting isn't if you don't know you're making a mistake.
Learn your mistakes.
Okay, get a teacher to tell you what they are, and then work on them.
Work on improving them.
Well, don't improve mistakes. Work on fixing them.
Correct your mistakes.
That's right.
Or it could be identified by the app that you're using while you're typing your emails and it underlines those incorrect words. Write the words down in your notebook.
Good.
Or on your Excel sheet and think to
Yes.
yourself, this is what I always get wrong. I must remember to self-correct.
Yes, because if you just click that change button and you don't retain it, you're going to just do it every time, and then you're wasting your time clicking change every time. There's a lot of time in there.
It takes time to learn, Em. And the final chapter on our learner's autonomy journey, Em, ask for feedback.
Don't be scared. I'd love it if my students asked me for feedback.
I'd love it too.
I don't know if I'm always welcome to give them feedback because sometimes they don't give me that feeling.
Are you not getting that vibe?
I'm not getting the vibe, but yeah, sometimes you don't want to hear it. Sometimes it isn't all perfect, but that's how you're going to get better.
You've got to make those mistakes. You've got to be shown how to correct them. Your teacher needs to point you in the right direction.
And it doesn't have to be a teacher, Gav. It could be another student, or it could be somebody who speaks well that you've heard at work, maybe, and you just want to say, what do you think about my English? Do you think I could improve it? How did you get so good at English? Have a good conversation about it.
That's a great conversation. I think learners are possibly the best people to teach, Em.
I know what you mean, Gav, but it didn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, learners are the best people to teach because they're students, but you mean learners are the best people to teach other learners.
I did.
Yeah, because they've learnt that themselves, so they know how to do it. They're a success story. They're a walking, talking, breathing success story. Use their knowledge.
Give us another L.
My next L is lead-ins.
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 Yes.
Lead-ins. Warm-ups. That kind of thing that you do at the beginning of the lesson to get your students ready for it. I'm a big fan of lead-ins. I think I've mentioned that many times. I do like a good lead-in that's natural, that's just easing you into the lesson without you even realising you're speaking English.
Should it reflect the forthcoming lesson topic?
Not necessarily. I think it can be unrelated, but my favourite kind of lead-in is something that's totally unrelated, but then cleverly feeds in and connects to the lesson topic.
On the topic of hippopotamuses.
Exactly.
Did you know?
Exactly. It could be something like, oh, hello everyone, I'm just cleaning my keyboard. Dust, dust, dust. If I'm online, by the way. Then I do a little cleaning of my keyboard and then I say, so what do you do for keeping your keyboard clean? How do you do it? Because it's a problem. You sit all day spitting at your screen and your keyboard. That generates quite a good...
Unintentional spitting, Em. I think you have to point out that that's accidental.
Yeah.
It's not deliberate.
That would be weird. Yeah, you've got a lot of problems with keeping your screen clean.
Are you talking about housework again? Because I cannot get away from this topic.
Neither can I, it appears. I think it's a nice topic, a universal topic, and then you can start saying, so what's your desk look like? And what things have you got in your drawers, if it's appropriate? And then you might want to start talking about office vocabulary and all the equipment in the office, and then that generally leads to other things you can go into.
Natural progression, that does happen, Em. I am absolutely with you on this one, because suddenly you're talking about emailing, you're talking about having meetings, there could be some presentations, or the students talking about their sick dog. It just could be anything, Em. It can go anywhere at all, and it's completely natural.
That's right. And I don't always intend it. I don't want it to appear that I'm orchestrating every conversation, because sometimes it does just naturally come up that I'm sitting there picking jam out of my hair, and I say to the student, oh, sorry, I got some jam on my hair at breakfast. And then we'll just talk about breakfast, and then that will lead to something else. We'll talk about food, or we'll talk about restaurants. But it wasn't intentional. It's just a random thing I say that's breaking the ice.
And it's so far worked.
Yeah, because I think that students get bored with that. Hey, how are you? How's it going? How's your day? How's your week? It's a bit boring.
Check out the jam in my hair.
Exactly. You're not going to expect that if you come to the lesson and then you just have to react.
As long as you don't start spitting at them, I think it'll be okay.
It's all good. Whatever your technique. I just think sometimes surprising them, talking about something they're not expecting. Like, there's a baby bird sitting on the wall outside my window. You can talk about animals for the first 10 minutes and a time that they may have found an animal or something like that.
Does that naturally lead to a lead out?
Lead out of the lead in or a lead out at the end of the lesson?
Either.
No?
We're led in and then we simply meander, wander,
No, we are directed...
stride forth
Yeah,
into the lesson's topic.
Confidently stride with guidance and certainty. Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to lead us now into my final L topic.
I'm trotting along behind you.
I would like to title it Listening Gap Fill, reporting verbs.
Oh, this does not sound like fun, Gav.
Well,
Sorry. Listening gap fill, reporting verbs. This is a student's nightmare.
I have noticed them. Maybe as I've mentioned before, I do a little transcription work on the pod. And I have noticed that we say the word say very often.
Well, I'm not surprised.
And we don't say questioned, reported,
Queried,
inferred.
proposed.
Exactly.
No, we don't.
Simply say, or possibly tell.
Yeah, I get your point.
So let's up our game with listening gap fill, reporting verbs. I'm going to...
Can we make it sound more fun? Can we call it, don't say, say, ...
Yes, we can. Don't say. That's it, but it still
Don't
has...
say, ...
Yes, but it still has to start with an L because today's episode is
Oh.
L.
Learners, don't say, say, ...
I like it.
Now that sounds like an activity, doesn't it? Not a test.
Shall I give you the context for our discussion?
Yes.
Team meeting.
Team meeting.
Instructions, Em? Because instructions are important, although they begin with I rather than L. Listen, that begins with L. And fill in the gaps with the correct reporting verb in the past tense.
Got it.
And don't forget to be careful with some of those reporting verbs when you use your reporting language. Some of them are a bit tricky. Now, Sophie, that's me.
You're not Sophie.
I say, I tell you, I report. Yes.
I've got my hand up. Why do you need to be Sophie? Can't you just be you?
I'm role-playing.
Sorry, okay, so somebody called Sophie has called her team together to say...
I'm the team lead, Sophie.
Right.
You could be Mark. Now, of course...
This is exactly how my lessons go.
After thanking my team for such fantastic work... Now I need to report back to you, my supervisor, to let you know what the team said.
Let me just check I've got this right. You're Sophie, you've had a team meeting, and now you're telling me what the team have said, but I need to tell you, using reported speech, what they've said.
You need to confirm it back to me, but of course you're going to report it.
Right. Let's try it.
Mark says...
I thought I was Mark.
This is a different Mark.
A different Mark. Okay, just to make it clear, no confusion, there are two Marks.
You're Mark II. Mark says that he's sent the report, but I can't find it anywhere.
Mark told you he had sent the report, but you couldn't find it anywhere.
Not told.
Not told. Mark...
He said it, but it might not be true, Em.
Mark denied sending the report?
He said it was true, but I'm not completely sure it's true, Em.
Mark claimed that he'd sent the report, but you couldn't find it anywhere.
That is exactly right. So you repeated my sentence, Em, that was in the present, but you transformed it into a past tense and replaced say with a reporting verb.
That's right.
Let's try the second sentence. Julia says that she will send out the invitations earlier next month to give people more notice.
I know you don't want say or tell, so Julia suggested that she would send out the invitations earlier next time.
To give people more notice.
To give people more notice.
Fantastic, Em. Raj says that the budget was too tight for what we needed.
Raj stated?
Raj is quite angry.
Raj shouted?
No, not that strong.
Raj complained?
Yes.
Raj complained that the budget was too tight.
Don't forget to go back a tense, Em.
That the budget had been too tight, and I've forgotten the rest.
For what we needed?
For what we needed. For what we had needed.
I think so.
Yes. I think it has to match.
That sounds very good to me. Tom says he can't work late again because he has other commitments.
Tom refused to work late again because he had other commitments.
Is correct. They're good. And finally, Carla, who is my favourite member of the team, says she'll finish her report by the end of the day.
Carla, who is my favourite member of the team, promised to finish.
To finish them?
To finish. It doesn't always go back a tense then.
You've got to think about that verb. Sometimes they don't.
Carla, who is my favourite member of the team, promised to finish the report by the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Em. You did that very well. We combined reporting verbs with reporting speech.
Well done, us.
Well done, Em. That was some very, very good computer work in your brain.
Thanks, Gav. My tip of the episode is one of the words you mentioned, which is listen. Listen.
I think we have to talk about listening. This is a very important L word.
It is an important skill, obviously, for students to learn to listen, but I think it's really, really important for teachers to also learn to listen. Listen to your students, listen to what they say, not just the grammar, not just the vocabulary, but what they're actually saying, because you have to react in a human way before you correct the grammar. I would definitely say react first, correct second.
That is my principle too.
And you can only do that if you're listening.
I am listening very carefully to what you're saying.
Have you got a tip of the episode, Gav?
I have, and it's another one of your language words, but I think you failed to mention language modelling.
Yeah, I did fail to mention that. I missed it, let's say.
Perhaps the teacher would hear how to say zucchini in British English from one of their students.
Yeah.
Or they might hear, what means aubergine?
Mm-hmm.
Now this is where you can step in, Em, in your teacher clogs and say, hey you lot, let's get this language right.
And then you demo it, you mean? You model it, let's say.
I'd say that these phrases need to be written on the board every lesson until the students use them perfectly. So how can we correct the sentence, how to say zucchini in British English?
How do I say zucchini in British English? How do you say zucchini? How is zucchini said in British English? You choose which one you like.
I like all of those. I'm writing them up on the board. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Or what means aubergine?
What does aubergine mean? What is an aubergine?
Can you tell me what an aubergine is?
Well, if you want to go straight to indirect questions, yeah, nice.
Can we see any problems with these modelled sentences from the teacher, Em? OK, now we start.
You're saying that it could be more of a complete sentence modelled by the teacher in a more thorough or grammatically correct way?
Yes.
Shall we start now? Or we should start? Or let's start?
I like let's start as well. And the teacher shouldn't shout, shut up.
No, that's just rude.
It is rude, isn't it? I think we can model that much better, Em.
Can I have your attention, please? Hello, everyone. Or right now, ready, something like that.
Let's picture the next one, Em. The teacher is talking to their class of low-level students and the teacher says, books open?
Which I understand because you're trying to make it simple. So 2 words is better than 3, perhaps.
2 words are better than 3.
2 words are better than 3, but I think even the extra 1 word is fine. Open your books. It's definitely worth teaching pronouns at this point.
Even if you don't point out any errors in the language, you can just model it and the students might pick it up.
You don't need to simplify everything as well. So even if your instructions are complicated, even if they're grammatically above your student's level, if you say them every time the same, if you say the same instruction every lesson, they will eventually remember that, and that will be quite a good way of them having that knowledge and that language.
That's why I often like to put articles into nouns that I'm teaching. So this is an aubergine. This is a zucchini.
And not everybody does that. Some teachers will just hold up objects and say the word pen or something like that.
I was sure you were going to say aubergine. Anyway.
Good point.
You can't carry that much fruit around in your bag every day.
Aubergine is a vegetable.
Or vegetables.
Actually, maybe it's not. It's probably somebody out there that's going to tell me an aubergine
It's
is
probably a
fruit.
nut.
It's probably something like a bean. But anyway.
My last one, Em. The teacher shouts out, stop!
It's a bit aggressive. I think I understand again why teachers might do it. It gets the point across. It's effective. But please stop there. Put your pens down. Stop the exercise. Stop writing. All this is good. Because they will understand the word stop. So I think they know the idea. But just stop on its own is not something you want them to go out into the world and say to people.
When somebody annoys you.
Well, maybe then you would. But if...
When your boss is giving a very boring presentation, don't shout stop.
No.
You might want to say, hey, let's take a break.
Sure.
Pens down.
And that, Gav, is pens down for us.
It is. We've come to the end of episode 12. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Did we mention anything about our favourite liquid contributions?
Liquid contributions? That is just another L there that you've tried to get in. But no, we didn't say anything about coffee.
ko-fi.com/howtoenglishpod, P-O-D.
If you would like to show us some appreciation with a hot beverage, we would very much appreciate it. We would love it. L for love.
Second best would be a like.
Yeah.
On our YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are, listening, reading, following...
All of that.
All of that.
And recommend us to other teachers, learners, people out there.
See you for M. M.
Next episode, Gav. Oh, yeah. M. It's the M.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.